Lawyers for the former president revealing some explosive cell phone data in a new court filing. They claim that Nathan Wade made at least 35 visits to the neighborhood where the Fulton County DA was living. They say, they go as far as alleging that Wade stayed overnight at her condo back in 2021. But the pair says the romantic relationship began in early 2022 after she'd brought him onto the Trump case. The new data seems to contradict what both Wade and Willis testified to under oath.
So if phone records were to reflect that you were making phone calls from the same location as the condo before November 1st of 2021, and it was on multiple occasions, the phone records would be wrong?
If phone records reflected that, yes, sir.
They'd be wrong.
They'd be wrong.
Okay. Did anyone else stay with you at the Yerty condo, including Miss Yerty?
Never. This was a very lonely period in my life. I don't think anyone ever spent the night.
Judge, you're not buying it over there. But listen, just because he was there doesn't mean, how can I say this for
that he slept with her?
That there was boot knocking going on.
Okay, let me explain one thing. I want you to think about this. He gets to her house at 3:30 in the morning, right?
Uh-oh.
No, he gets to her house at 10:45 at night.
Okay.
He leaves at 3:30 in the morning. He gets to his house at 4, goes back home at 4, and then texts her at about 5 minutes after 4. Now, I don't think they're texting about a case. He's telling her what a great night he had. Look, here's the bottom line. This case just blew up. Fani Willis not only has the appearance of impropriety, not only an actual conflict, Fani Willis perjured herself. Her boyfriend perjured himself. They lied under oath. Each of them said they didn't have a relationship until 2022. Now, Robin Yater, whatever the name is, she said, no, it started in 2019. I saw them. They were hugging. They were kissing. And you know what? She ain't a great DA. I never thought she was that smart. She doesn't know how to conduct herself in a courtroom, clearly. But this woman is so dumb, she doesn't even realize that cell phone analytics can identify the exact location of your phone, not the area, but the exact location based upon the cell tower. That's how we prove crimes. We've been doing it for years, Fani. And here's the thing. In 2021, before they hooked up, they texted each other more than 1,000 times a month, but they weren't boot knocking. And they called each other more than 2,000 times a month. More to the point, he's going to her house. He's sleeping there. He's leaving, going home at least 2 nights. She calls her friend Robin a liar. Look, this man has no experience as a felony prosecutor or with RICO. She has no experience in a courtroom. The two of them are ridiculous. She was able to fund a lavish lifestyle that she took part of with this stupid claim, I paid him back in cash, that itself is incredulous. The only question now is whether or not the judge is going to have the chutzpah to call it for what it is, and this is perjury. The bottom line is Wade got paid, Willis got laid, and the taxpayers got played. That's the way it is.
I thought maybe you were going to say spade. But no.
All right.
Okay, so Jesse, can you text someone thousands of times, be close friends, be talking about business, and it's not romantic? Possible?
It was a booty call. The judge nailed it. She texts at 11, come on over. He comes over. He leaves at 4. Come on. It's a booty call. But they lied about sex. Hasn't everybody lied about sex? That's the whole Clinton drama. They lied about sex. But they also lied about money. And he's destroyed evidence in past cases. And she's now lied 16 times to the judge's face. This judge might be a softie, though.
He is a wimp.
So anything could happen. The thing is here, they've so disqualified themselves. The judge might say, listen, it's personal. I need to stay in Fulton County as a judge. I want to save my career in Fulton County and just let them go on their way. But if you're going to lie that many times just about this and cover it up, you're not going to be prosecuting the former president with any integrity. You're going to lie, cheat, and steal in that case, too. And that's why they should be disqualified.
Well, and Harold, I mean, the judge is going to have a closed hearing on Monday with one of these, witnesses who was a former law partner. There's a question of attorney-client privilege. He represented Nathan Wade for part of the time in the divorce. But then it's public again next Friday. And that hearing, this judge is going to have to make some tough decisions.
There's no doubt. both these attorneys, Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis, will have to respond to this new data here. I don't know. I've not reached the same conclusion that because they were communicating as much as they were, that this meant that there was some sort of romantic relationship. But if the data shows it and they misled the court, I don't disagree with it all. This court will have an enormous set of pressures on him to render a judgment, and we'll have to take that into consideration as he renders a judgment. I would imagine the judge is not going to be swayed by how he has to function in Fulton County over the next several months or years, if indeed this turns out to be true. Now, I've heard many be critical of Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade and their legal skills. I'll say this: I didn't think that this case from the outset was particularly compelling. However, when you look at the number of plea agreements that they've gotten from a whole host of people, including very sophisticated and smart and experienced lawyers, they did a pretty good job, whether he had experience or not in any of this. But the issue here at hand is whether or not they told the truth sitting in that judge's chamber, sitting in that courtroom. And today, doubt has been cast there, and they're going to have to answer these questions.
Well, Greg, do you think they're telling the truth?
No, of course they are. They were playing Yahtzee.
I love Yahtzee.
Yes. They're working on a case, and when booty calls, this is like a classic Columbo episode, right? It's all going one way, and then that last segment on the show, there's that one clue. It's the phone records, and then it's over. They didn't just falsely testify. They really falsely testified. I mean, and it was so obvious to everybody. It was amazing they did it. They assumed that they could get away with it. But this removes any ambiguity. They perjured. They will lose the case. They will probably lose their jobs, and they could actually lose their freedom because they broke the law. Why did they do it? They assumed they had a free pass. You know, if you analyze their claims, you could be called racist. And they had a judge that seemed legitimately terrified of his previous employer. It was like Dwight Schrute interviewing Michael Scott, right? It just appeared that even in the testimony when she went off the rails, she was in control because the judge was too scared to rein her in. And I think the bigger picture here, when you step back, is how all the major critics of the left have been targeted by lawfare. So whether it's the January 6th protesters, Trump, Lindell, Musk, Giuliani, Bannon, Fox, there are lesser known names who are being targeted. It is time probably to return fire. You know, you don't bring a slingshot to a gunfight. It's time for some deep pockets to start targeting Soros-funded DAs, the people who absolve themselves from truly fighting crime, and instead to focus on their political adversaries and opponents. Because the fact is, this stuff's going to continue. They're going to keep targeting people and trying to put them behind bars.
We will find every Soros-funded DA's booty call.
Exactamundo,
There's no
Jesse.
way he can hide.
Yes, yes. Everybody lies about sex.
I feel not me.
Why should you?
I have no reason to lie.
You're as pure as the driven snow.
That's right.
Take
Women
that
of
to
the
the
Bible.
bank.
Women of the Bible.
Women of the Bible have spoken.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.